Dams should be built with respect to the following: the earth type. Make sure you have enough clay. If you build your dam in a location and you know, there's just not enough clay, it's not going to hold water, and that's not going to be appropriate. The grade behind the wall. So when we make the dam, we'll see in a little bit. If we make they're typically triangular. If this is too steep, right, the rainfall will hit it and create erosion, right? And then you could get erosion behind your dam due to rainfall impact, and you'll lose your dam. So we need to make sure that the slope where the rain hits it is not too steep, okay? That's the grade behind the dam. The downstream structures and houses, don't put barns, buildings, or houses downstream of an earthen dam. If the dam fails, you may lose your structure. And your available catchment. If you make a huge dam, but there's not enough rainfall or water to be brought to the dam, it may never fill up. And there's lots of examples of people doing that where they dug ponds. They do hold water, but there's not enough rainfall, so you have this huge, and it never fills up. It looks pretty bad, right? So you want to make sure that you can fill up the pond, not just have a big hole. Okay, so dam sizes. Tampered earth, so this is what we're going to look at. We're going to compress the earth to the clay, and when we compress the clay, that'll make the water-sealed barrier. Tamped earth of 50% higher of clay content is a waterproof barrier up to heights of 3.6 meters and or 12 meters deep. What's that mean is I dig down to put the earth up. So the total depth, or the max depth of the dam, is 12 meters, right? But the height of the dam wall is only 3.6 or max 4 meters, okay? Don't try to go past that. So 4.5 to 6 meters high for small earth dams. People have done it as high as 6 meters. You have to make your own risk analysis, guys. So if in your local area, the people that do this type of work are building 6-meter dams and you can go see those, you could probably say, okay, that's okay. If you're not seeing anybody do that type of work, then I wouldn't recommend trying to push the boundaries. So building dams on slope. So contour a dam that's on slope. The slope to crest should be concave, meaning that when I sit the dam and I dig out the hole, I get a concave. Every 25 centimeters, we're going to compress it, and we're going to see in a second slideshows of actual real every step of a dam being built, a permaculture dam with swales, from grasslands to filling up with water. So you'll see this, but from a remembering standpoint. We have to be like a keyway. A keyway is basically if I'm on slope like this, and then I just stick a dam here, right? Boom. And the water pushes on it, what would happen? Slide. Yeah? So the weight of the water will slide the dam down the hillside. There's nothing to lock it in. So the keyway is where we cut a ditch, basically, and then we lock the dam into the footing. So you can't push it downhill. We'll see pictures of that in a second. And the freeboard, or the spillway. So we don't ever want to get the water to be to the top of the dam where we would walk or drive a car. It has to be lower than 1 meter. We control that by making the spillway so when it gets to the max height, it has somewhere to go. If it gets above that, it will get the soil wet. So it'll get wet from the rain at the top, and it'll get wet from the wicking at the bottom, and then you can lose the top of the dam, okay? So that's the reason for that. So when it rains, it definitely will get wet at top, maybe 8-10 inches. But then there'll be a dry part, right? So we have to have that or we'll lose the dam. So what does that mean? Here's a picture 7.17 from the designer's manual on dam building. And I'm also going to use this to get you to understand swales. So there's always a question that I'm asked, man, yeah, you show me the swales, but I don't know where to put them. So dams, I can understand. There's topography, right? Obviously that's where I put a dam, and there's a relationship between the height of the dam that we're going to see in the key point. But what about swales? Where do I put swales? What's the relationship? Okay. There's not necessarily a relationship like that, but it's actually about a little easier, I think, to understand. Just people don't describe it. So if we see this picture, we see A, B, C, and D, right? Going up a hillside. Do you notice how as you go up the hillside from D is a bigger swale? The berm is bigger. And then when it gets to C, it's smaller, B, and as it goes up. What does that mean? The dam, as this slope is like this, and I put the dam, right, the height, it can't backflood much or to go over the top. But as this goes down, it can be bigger, has more backflooding, correct? So we make the dam height and or, it's exactly the same, the swale berm, a relationship to the slope. So what does that mean? The less slope, we have a bigger berm, but they're spaced further apart. So I may have a berm like here at Raktamachat every 100 meters. So I have a swale, I go up 100 meters because I have a very small slope, right? So a big berm will back flood, could theoretically back flood. So I put them further apart, right? There's not much slope. So the water doesn't run so fast. But if I have a steep slope, then I'm gonna have a smaller swale, but closer together, right? If it's really, really steep, like I can hardly walk up the hillside, I might put a swale every meter. But the swale may only be the width of a shovel, a single shovel, and make 2-inch berm so that 1 meter of water raining runs and hits that little berm. And then the next meter of water that rains hits that bump because it's so steep. If I dig a big ditch on a steep slope, it could cause a landslide. So basically, as the slope goes down, the berm size gets bigger and further apart, okay? Which is being depicted there with a dam, but a dam is not that much different in concept than a swale or a terrace. So a terrace is a berm that back floods on almost a completely or perfectly flat landscape, right? So this is rice farming. It's perfectly flat. So the inside, right, the back side of the dam floods because it's really flat. So the flatter it is and the higher the berm, the more it floods. That's a terrace. If there's a little bit of slope, that same height berm will only back flood less because of the slope, but it's bigger, so that's it. So there's not really any conceptual difference to dams, swales, and terracing. It's only a scale issue due to slope, okay? So that's something that some people don't see, but as an engineer, anyway. So what does this all mean? Well, earth tanks versus earthen dams, meaning that if I try to dig a concrete tank and or utilize plastic or these type of jars, if you will, earth tanks are much cheaper, okay? If it's really small and you only want to store a little bit of water, like 5,000 liters, it may be appropriate to just buy 3 jars, right? Cool. Not bring a traco, because the minimum price of bringing a traco, right, he may have to charge me $300. So for 1 day's work, just 1 day, I have to spend $300. So if I don't need $300 worth of earthworks, it may be appropriate to use tanks, right? Just, okay? But if I need more than that, the scale's showing you as the bigger the job gets, the cheaper the job gets. Because you don't have to pay for transport. The transport is associated here and leaving with the job. So the more they dig, cheaper it gets. So earth storage is now the cheapest, easiest, and most locally self-reliant method of water conservation. Unless both cities and farms use such methods, clean water will diversibly become known as the world's rarest mineral. Ill health will be perpetuated, and droughts and floods alike become commonplace. And we're going to see none of these are necessary. So we have the technology, we have the tools, we have the skills, and it's not very expensive. It's really, really inexpensive. It's one of the best and most inexpensive investments we can make on our property is to increase the water storage capacity. Besides the aesthetics. So let me talk about investment in only aesthetics. If I buy a piece of property in a Western sense, right? And I go to the property, I invest $10,000 to dig a pond. I turn around the next day, I get a real estate agent to come. So I bought the property for $100,000. I invest $10,000 to put a pond. I bring back another real estate agent. I say, can you appraise this property? She says, yes, $140,000. I get almost a 400% or multiplier on the $10,000 investment because people are willing to pay for the beautification of the water, not taking any consideration of the value of the energy stored, meaning I could utilize that to do something else, right? Just how it looks. So it's a really great way to improve your property. So value, aesthetics, and the ability to do some type of agriculture. We're going to come back and look in another section, which is water storage. So I like to separate the book, the actual designer's manual kind of mixes it all up together. I don't know why Bill does that exactly, but we're going to keep our water storage and tanks and water cleaning of our personal waste in a separate lecture because that makes it a little bit easier to do this justice to both, okay? So they're probably independent, though he did mix it up a little bit.